Recently, I did a video within the last 2-3 weeks going over all the numbers in Naples, Florida, and then some of the surrounding cities that are sort of one-off to Naples. So Cape Coral being one of them, having the most amount of listings for sale than they've had really in over a decade. And we kind of talked a little bit about that, what areas had been hit hard, which areas you could potentially kind of target if you're thinking about buying something either for yourself or for ROI, for return on investment. There are a lot of decent deals out there in areas that are seeing high numbers of homes on the market. Cape Coral was one, Fort Myers was one. So what I want to talk to you about today is Naples seeing a little bit of a turn? Is it seeing a little bit of a rebound coming into the off season? So, you know, if you watch my channel, we've been talking about this for a long time, for about 1.5 years. I've been telling you, outside of you having something that's very specific. So I say this all the time, and a lot of times people forget that I say this. But if you have very specific needs, for example, you want a great big water view, your budget is under $800,000, you only want to be facing west, and you want a 3-car garage. If you find that, you need to go on that. I always tell people work to a 90% solution, because if you see it, sometimes you just have to go for it. Because especially if it's investment property, so what? Go find another one. But if it's for you and you have to factor yourself into something, then another thing I say to folks all the time during consultations is, who is your client? Meaning, if you're looking to buy something, and this happens all the time when I do consultations, people will say, well, I thought I would buy something and then we're going to use it a couple months out of the year, maybe here and there, we'll pick it up a week or another week, but we also want to make some money, we're going to rent it. And I always say, who is your client? Is it you? Or is it rental, ROI? Is it getting the best return on your money? Because what you like may not be what's going to be the best return. I'll give you an example. A pool is very expensive to have if you're going to utilize something as a rental, because your insurance is going to be much higher. So there's lots of little subtleties and little nuances that we have to be aware of. So all of that said, what we want to know is, where are the high foreclosure rates right now today? Because we do have new numbers that I want to give you. So I want to update the numbers for you. And then, is Naples starting to correct itself? Okay, so the highest foreclosure rates are coming out of 3 counties right now. So let me read the counties to you. I'm looking down because I want to get it right for you. Lake County is number 3. Dixie County is number 2. And they were really high. Dixie County was really high in January. So both of those counties, by the way, are definitely what I would not really consider snowbirdy. They're regular living Florida. You know, I always say average Joe Florida. And then the number 1 in foreclosures, which is probably going to come as no surprise if you watch my channel, it is, I know some of you are thinking Cape Coral. Cape Coral, Fort Myers is number 4. So just to give you an idea, number 4. But number 1 right now is Charlotte County. So that's going to be Punta Gorda, Port Charlotte. So Port Charlotte and Punta Gorda, they kind of sit across from each other, and then you have the Peace River in between. So for me personally, this is just my opinion, I like Punta Gorda a little bit better than I like Port Charlotte. And the main reason for that is I feel like Punta Gorda is a little bit more charming. You know, they have Fisherman's Village, and Punta Gorda is actually Babcock Ranch, if you didn't know that. A lot of people think that's Fort Myers, and I can understand that where it sits, but that's technically Punta Gorda as well. That is Charlotte County. So I like it a little bit better. I think it's a little bit stronger of a purchase than Port Charlotte. Port Charlotte is getting pummeled, and especially Northport. So let me just give you some numbers. So one one foreclosure per every 198 housing units. So what does that mean? 1 in 198 pieces of real estate, whether that be, not including land, but whether that be a condo or a mobile home, if it's on land, and there are a lot of them in Northport, and then single family houses. So if there's a door, it counts, unless it's a mobile home that's on rented land. That doesn't count. So 1 in 198, totaling 561 properties foreclosed. So that's a lot. That's a lot. We know this because we've been talking about this a lot on my channel. There are builders, developers that have canceled their contract to do new home subdivisions. I mean, that's really significant. Again, we're reminiscent of 2008, 2005 to 2008, you know, the rise and the fall. So, and I say this a lot, real estate is cyclical. So by the time 2008 became 2011, it was a completely changed market. So look at the time frame there, and kind of, if you know that history is the best determiner of the future, we're kind of in that zone right now. I get the question constantly all week long on my consultations. All week long I'm asked, when is the time? Are we ready? We want to buy in Naples. Is now the time? So let me just give you some facts about Naples. Right now, and I just calculated it, it's only a couple months under 1 year of inventory on the market. 1 year of inventory. I mean, that is a lot. The last time I gave you these numbers, it was at a little over 11 months of inventory. Now we're at a year's worth of inventory. Now, what have I been telling you? As you move to the off season, which we're almost there, April kind of rounds out that shoulder of moving into the off season. A lot of people consider April to be the off season. So right now, and we can only, you know, we try to pitch out the best we can when we're asked to do it. And I always say I don't have a crystal ball, but if we look at history and we look at the cycle of how things look, and we have some other weird things going on. As you know, we've got a lot of political unrest right now. There's just so many balls in the air. And if we look at every one of them as balloons, all of them have holes in them. It's like across the board. There's a problem in, if you wrote out everything that influences pricing in real estate and you put all those up in the air and they were all up in the air in the form of a balloon, every one of them is taking a hole. And eventually that comes down. Well, and you may say, well, you know what, Barrett? You know what's not coming down? Interest rates. And listen, I agree with you. I also think that they might not. I mean, they really might not. You know me. I am not, nobody on my watch, nobody that watches my channel has gotten caught up in that date the rate, marry the house scenario, nightmare information. Nobody, because if you did that, you would be date the rate, marry the foreclosure. Because if you bought at the top of your budget because some loan officer convinced you on Facebook that the rates were going to come down and they were going to do a refi for you, and they have not come down enough. You know, maybe they've come down that your family can possibly go to McDonald's once a week, but who's going to do a refinance over that? And then you balance that out with eggs being $10 a carton. Like, you have to look at things globally. And this is what I always say on my channel, because I don't want this here being the foreclosure zone, which is why I said, listen, I don't care if I don't sell one house in 2024. Many agents didn't, by the way. I think it was 71% of agents didn't sell one house in 2024. So it was not the year. And there, you know, thankfully I've had a good career and I could just ride out 2024. But listen, so anyway, let's put ourselves back on track. Is Naples starting to course correct? The answer is no, it's not. It isn't. I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you're a seller. If you're a buyer, you should be in the marketplace, because Here's two ways to look at it. I'm speaking to you, Mr. and Mrs. Seller in Naples, Florida right now, because listen, I'm a listing agent. Yes, I work with buyers, but I also work with listings. So here's my advice to you. You might say, you've got to be kidding me, Barrett. What are we going to do? We need to sell. My husband has a job in Boston he wants to take. Now what do we do? Okay, so here's the thing. The buyers are out. That is a positive. Out meaning they're in the marketplace. There are many buyers that are sitting on the fence like, now? How about now? Is it now? And I would say to you that this cycle, this off-season cycle, you have to take it seriously. If you're looking for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo on the 3rd floor with an elevator and a pretty lanai, buy whenever you want. You don't need to buy now. There's going to be hundreds of those for you to look at most of the time. So I'm not talking to you. But if you have specific needs, I want a 3-bedroom, 2-bath in a Estero. I want to be within 20 minutes of getting to the Gulf of America. I want a big lanai that faces east, and I want a 3-car garage, and my budget's $750. If we find that, then we just work the best deal that we can for you. Now, I know we're talking about Naples, but a lot of people that look in Naples, they also look, they run that corridor of Naples, Bonita Springs, Estero. When you hit Fort Myers, I'm over here to the north. When you hit Fort Myers, then that buyer tends to be Fort Myers, Cape Coral, and then maybe out into Port Charlotte. So it's a completely different buyer. So what I'm saying is, if you're a seller and you want to sell in the summer, you did not sell during season and you're not real happy about it, and you want to sell in the summer, if you price your house right, if you look at comparables and you don't get crazy greedy, you're going to sell. Why? Because there are buyers in the marketplace. Buyers know, smart buyers know, they should be out now looking. Now, some of you may say, nope, Barrett, you're wrong. You're a greedy real estate agent, and the time to buy is 2027. What if we're in a war? What if interest rates go up? Who knows? Think about the things that have happened in the last year. We've had, I'm not even going to go over them politically, but you all know we've had a lot of unrest. All of those things destabilize the real estate market. So I can only speak to like the next 6 months, year out. So to me, now is not a bad time to start getting serious about it.